when I think about what our trajectory looks like as a legacy clubs, I'm sure many Rapids fans think about that as well. How do you even begin to think on all the traction that expansion clubs have seen? And now you look at St. Louis City FC. I mean, an amazing start to the season and how long they plan to keep that going. I don't know. Can legacy clubs keep up?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult question. You know, I think, what was it? Was the MLS University, didn't that come out like a couple weeks ago, Jose, about talking about that? And like, honestly, I think Don Garber's got a point. You know, Jose, if you were to pitch it, let's say FC Dallas and Colorado Rapids don't exist. Let's say they're never even in the conversation for MLS, what so have you. And KSC and then the Hunt family come in and they pitch what the club currently is right now. They're not even on the second cut for expansion teams right now.
Yeah.
Like, forget Las Vegas, I can't remember what the other one, San Diego that everybody's talking about. Like, if somebody from Indianapolis has pitched an indie MLS team, that is on par with where currently the existing infrastructure and setup and the stadium and the location and maybe the model and how much they're spending and the ownership situation are that the Rapids and that FC Dallas are at. So, you know, absolutely every single time a new expansion team comes in, just the fact that you've got a billionaire willing to use this as their toy and play ever, you know, higher, more expensive expansion fees, that raises the expectations for what that individual needs to have and what that individual is going to bring to and add to the leagues. And don't get me wrong, a rising tide raises all boats and everything. But at this point, like, the Rapids are in a raft and we're up S River without enough paddles at this point. You know, and you compare that to the yacht that St. Louis is sailing down the Mississippi, for example, or I guess the yacht ferry, for example. So, you know, it's tough. It's struggling. I look at the Chicago Fire, who are playing in Soldier Field, and maybe in a couple of years they're going to be the only attendance in Soldier Field, and they get like 7,000 people. And even if they were to get 15 or 20, maybe, that would still look like a cavernous, empty stadium that is on par with MLS 1.0, you know. And let's face it, the Rapids playing with, like, you know, 14,000 people at Mile High just over that way for me personally. So, you know, it's a tough thing to think about. I don't know how these legacy teams catch up without doing a rebrand. Like, I think Sporting Kansas City has handled it really well. The Galaxy get away with it because of the market they're in and the amount of money that they spend. Red Bull Arena is a fantastic stadium. It's in a poor location for me. I don't know how that's getting any better. So I think realistically, a lot of these legacy teams have been left behind. And there are certain markets where it's adaptable to what you could handle. You look at Columbus, for example. You know, you get the right owner who wants to be there in the right stadium situation, and it would work perfectly. You know, and I remember there was a Nutmeg News article that said 10 things that Stan Kroenke could do that would help the Colorado Rapids, and all 10 of them were sell the team to somebody who cares. You know, if you were to I think Jeff Bezos is originally from Colorado, and if there was a billionaire from Colorado who had no interest in working with the Broncos whatsoever, and you were to sell it to somebody who really cared about that, you know, then I think that would be, even before then, and then just have somebody hands-on investing in, let's make this the best that it can be. Even if we're staying in Commerce City, upgrading the stadium and the facilities and everything, that'd be a huge net positive for the club. But these owners don't go away lightly and only on their own terms and only after making a huge profit. I don't blame the league for thinking there's some ways that internally we can push it, but I think it's a valid question. And I also think for me, from that standpoint, you know, I had a number of conversations in the first couple of years with Atlanta United. They've traveled well, surprisingly, for games coming out here to Commerce City. And there was a dismissal for anything that came before Atlanta United. And there was almost a presumption of trophies that existed prior to the modern era of MLS were somehow worth less. I can make an argument, Jose, when there were only 6 teams in the NHL for like 40 years, that the number of Stanley Cups that those original 6 teams had was a little bit inflated. I don't think DC United's dynasty should be belittled because it was in MLS 1.0. And I don't believe that Atlanta United's playoff success should be seen as superior to the Colorado Rapids when both of them have one MLS Cup.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that no previous accomplishments should be diminished, right? I think at the end of the day, everything expands. If it's growing the right way, everything expands, everything gets bigger, gets better, but it doesn't take away from what's already come before it. In fact, you can argue that was the foundation for which the expansion club teams are seeing success, right?
Yeah,
so,
the Rapids have walked so that other teams could run, albeit at the expense of the Rapids falling to the back of the race.
Yeah.